You think it was something obvious, something you said, something you did. But here's what actually happened. Every single day, millions of men are getting rejected, ghosted, and friend-zoned, and they have absolutely no idea why. You've been there. You thought the date went well. Great conversation. She laughed at your jokes. You felt connected. Then, nothing. Radio silence. And you're left wondering what the hell went wrong. But what if I told you? It wasn't something you did wrong. It was something you kept doing right in all the wrong ways. These aren't just dating mistakes. These are the exact psychological triggers that make a woman's attraction die, quietly, while you're still trying to win her over. I'm about to reveal the 5 specific behaviors that turn women off instantly, behaviors that 90% of men think are attractive. And by the end of this video, you'll understand female psychology at a level that will make your dating life completely different. But here's the thing, mistake number 3 is so counterintuitive, it's going to flip everything you think you know about being a good guy completely upside down. And mistake number 5? It's the reason she goes quiet, and most men never see it coming. If you're tired of being confused by women, hit subscribe. This is real insight from inside a woman's mind. So let's dive in. But I need to warn you, some of this is going to sting. Number 1. The performance mode personality. Picture this scenario. You're on a first date. You've got your game face on. The jokes are ready. The stories are rehearsed. You're being the perfect version of yourself. And you think that's what's going to win her over. But here's the brutal truth. The moment she realizes you're performing, attraction dies. Not slowly, instantly. You see, some men will spend more time curating their personality for a first date than they've spent understanding who they actually are. And women can smell this from a mile away. Here's what this looks like in real life. She mentions something vulnerable, maybe work's been crushing her lately. And instead of staying with her in that moment, you pivot to a joke. You deflect. You perform. You think you're keeping things light and fun. But what she feels is abandonment. Because here's what most men don't understand about female psychology. She doesn't want perfect. She wants present. Let me tell you about Sarah. Beautiful woman, successful career. She went on a date with this guy, handsome, charming, fun. But something about him made her feel alone. They're walking through a park, and she opens up about feeling distant from some friends. Not dramatic, just real. And his response? Well, that's why you've got me now. Cute, right? Wrong. Because he didn't ask a single follow-up question. Didn't pause. Just kept the performance going. And that's the moment she knew this wouldn't go anywhere. Here's the psychological trigger you're missing. When you perform instead of connect, you make her feel like she needs to earn your authentic attention. And women don't chase validation. They chase depth. But performing isn't the worst mistake men make. The next one is actually more dangerous because it's so subtle. Most men think they're being confident when they're actually. Number 2. Subtle power grabs. This one's fatal. And you probably don't even realize you're doing it. You think power moves only come in loud packages. Yelling, arguing, alpha male posturing. But for women, the real red flags are quiet, subtle, socially acceptable. It's the guy who lovingly mocks her outfit choice, or tells her she's not like other girls, thinking it's a compliment, or casually calls her dramatic when she expresses a need. Here's what's actually happening in her brain when you do this. You're making micro-withdrawals from her confidence, her trust. And it's disorienting because she can't quite put her finger on why she feels smaller around you. Let me give you a real example that will blow your mind. There's this guy, let's call him Mike. He's not loud or aggressive, but every conversation with him becomes about proving he's right. If a woman disagrees with him, he doesn't listen and ask questions. He corrects her, like she's wrong instead of different. Compare that to Alex. Alex isn't flashy, but when you talk to him, he's there. If he disagrees, he doesn't make you feel stupid. He makes you feel heard. And because he's not trying to dominate the dynamic, he owns the room. Quietly, effortlessly. Here's this psychological principle that will change your dating life forever. Dominance repels. Depth attracts. The more you try to assert dominance, the less masculine you actually feel to her. Real masculine energy doesn't need to prove itself. It holds space. It stays calm in her storm. It lets her shine without shrinking. So here's your action step. Next time she says something you disagree with, don't correct her. Get curious. Ask, tell me more about that. Watch what happens to the energy between you. Because if a woman feels like she has to shrink to be close to you, she will choose distance. Every single time. But even if you master presence and avoid power grabs, there's a third mistake that's even more insidious. It's the one that nice guys make that turns kindness into manipulation. Number 3. Being nice but resentful. Let's talk about the nice guy, not the genuinely kind man. I'm talking about the nice on the surface, seething underneath type. You say all the right things. Open doors. Compliment her outfit. Ask how her day was. But there's something underneath it all, a transaction. You're not just being nice, you're investing. And when that investment doesn't pay off, when she doesn't kiss you or respond how you wanted, suddenly the nice guy becomes cold, passive-aggressive, or worse, he becomes a victim. Here's the psychological trap. You didn't show up for her. You showed up to be rewarded. I went on a date with someone who was perfectly agreeable, never pushed back. When I said I loved indie films, suddenly he loved them too. Vegan? Now he was reconsidering steak. But here's what killed it. When I asked what made him come alive, he paused and said, "Honestly, I just want someone who finally appreciates how much I give." That sentence ruined everything, because I realized his niceness wasn't generosity. It was strategy. Here's the brutal truth about female psychology. The more you suppress your authenticity to earn her approval, the less attracted she feels. Not because she wants conflict, but because she can feel the inauthenticity underneath your niceness. Women are attracted to men who know their worth without needing applause. Men who can disagree respectfully. Men who want her, but don't need her to validate them. But nice guys aren't the only ones who struggle. There's a fourth type of man that drives women crazy, and it's the guy who thinks he's giving her exactly what she wants. Number 4. Passive neediness. Disguised AS, chill. You think you're being low maintenance. Easygoing. Cool. I'm down for whatever. Don't text too much. Don't initiate serious conversations. Don't make plans. You call it giving her space. But from her side, it feels like emotional starvation. Here's what you need to understand. Passive men don't feel safe. They feel absent. She becomes the one asking deeper questions, steering conversations out of small talk, initiating the real moments. And at first, she thinks you're just laid back. But over time, it starts to feel like slow motion rejection. There's a specific emotional experience women have with passive men. Does he actually care about me? Would he notice if I pulled away? Why do I feel more alone with him than by myself? I dated someone who was the king of whatever works for you. Never made plans. Never asked about my day unless I brought it up. If I pulled back to test if he'd notice, he didn't. Not because he didn't care, but because he thought not pressuring me was the same as being thoughtful. It wasn't. Here's the difference most men miss. We don't chase men who give us space. We chase men who make space for us, with us, inside themselves. Initiation equals investment, not desperation. When you default to whatever, you're not being flexible. You're being emotionally unavailable, just in polite packaging. But there's one last mistake that's the most dangerous of all. Because it's so invisible, most men don't even know they're doing it. And it's the real reason she goes quiet. Number 5. Emotional laziness. The silence killer. You didn't cheat. You didn't lie. You didn't say something cruel. So you're confused when she starts pulling away. When her texts get shorter. Her voice flatter. You didn't do anything wrong. Exactly. That's the problem. One of the biggest mistakes men make is thinking emotional connection is built once and then just stays. No, connection is earned in maintenance. She brings up something weighing on her, and you nod, but don't follow up. She hints she's been feeling off, and you offer a vague "that sucks" and move on. Here's the moment everything changes. I'm sitting next to someone I was dating. I told him I was feeling disconnected from my work. Not because I hated it, but because I wasn't sure it aligned with who I was becoming. He looked up from his phone and said, "You're just stressed, babe. It'll pass." Then went back to scrolling. No question. No curiosity. No pause to say, "Tell me more." Maybe he thought he was being reassuring. But what I felt was abandonment. Emotional distance equals death by 1,000 cuts. Here's the psychological truth. When a woman opens up and you rush past it, even kindly, you teach her that silence is safer than feeling unseen. That's why she goes quiet. Not because she's moody, but because silence became the only language you were willing to hear. If you're seeing that shift, the withdrawal, the shorter texts, the lessened warmth, don't ask what she's doing wrong. Ask yourself, when did I stop being curious about who she's becoming? Am I coasting in this connection or cultivating it? Have I been present or just present? Because emotional intimacy doesn't run on autopilot. It runs on attention, on follow-through, on showing up not just when she's laughing, but when her voice trembles. It's not the big mistakes that make her pull away. It's the little moments you didn't think mattered. The spaces where she hoped you'd lean in and you leaned out. Here's what I need you to understand. A woman will forgive a lot, but the one thing she won't forget is how it felt when you stopped trying to understand her. That's how desire fades. Not because she wanted too much, but because you kept giving her just enough to stay, but never enough to feel safe. Understanding her is equal to understanding yourself. But here's the beautiful thing. Now you know. You can't unsee what you've just learned. And that means every interaction you have from this point forward can be different. More present, more curious, more real. And if this opened your eyes to how women actually think and feel, there's so much more we need to talk about. The psychology behind what makes women chase. The subtle behaviors that create unshakable attraction. The conversations that make her think about you when you're not around. If you found the video helpful, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.